The alien warrior woman challenged me, then froze when she saw the tattoo on my back. Ethan Brooks had worked on Station V-19 for almost 2 years. It was a busy trading station at the edge of the Orion sector. Ships from many planets came here to trade goods, repair their engines, or rest. Humans were rare in this part of space. Most aliens thought humans were weak and unimportant. Ethan liked it that way. He liked to be unnoticed. Ethan worked in the maintenance bay. He repaired engines, wires, and sometimes the odd robot. He was good at his job, careful and precise. Most of the alien crew members ignored him. Some even laughed when he passed. They said humans were fragile, that we could not survive in deep space. Ethan never argued. He knew humans had secrets they did not. The station was larger than most humans had seen. Towers of metal and glass stretched high into the docking area. Bright lights blinked, signaling ships coming and going. Alien traders moved in crowds, some with 6 arms, others with shimmering scales. Each species had its own way of speaking, moving, and trading. It was a busy, loud place, but Ethan liked it. He liked to watch without being watched. On this particular day, there was a challenge announced in the main arena. The arena was a large open area surrounded by high walls. Aliens often held contests here. Fighters showed strength, skill, and courage. Today, the announcement was unusual. A warrior woman from the planet Zera had arrived on the station. Her name was Kara. She was tall, strong, and fierce. Her armor glinted in the lights of the arena. She had fought many battles and won every one. Kara was proud. She walked into the arena with her head high, scanning the crowd. Her eyes were sharp, and she laughed at those she saw as weak. Her gaze fell on Ethan. He was fixing a small power module near the edge of the arena. She noticed him because he was human. She thought humans were fragile and slow. Kara called out in her loud, clear voice. "Human, step into the arena, I challenge you," the crowd gasped. Humans were not known for fighting. Many aliens laughed, thinking it would be an easy victory. Ethan looked up at her calmly. He wiped his hands on a rag and walked to the center of the arena. No one expected him to accept. Some whispered among themselves, wondering if he was foolish. Ethan looked at Kara and nodded. "I accept." The crowd went silent. They could not believe a human dared to accept a challenge from a Zaran warrior. Kara's eyes widened in surprise. Most humans ran or hid. This one walked forward, steady and calm. She had expected fear, not courage. Kara's voice was low now, filled with disbelief. You are not afraid," Ethan shook his head. "Humans do not always show fear, but we are ready for what comes." The rules of the duel were simple. Each fighter could use their strength and weapons, but no deadly force was allowed in the station. It was meant to show skill, not to kill. Kara smirked. She thought it would be easy. Humans were smaller, weaker, slower. She had no idea what Ethan truly carried inside him. Before the fight, both fighters had to remove their outer layers. Kara's armor clinked as she did. Ethan slowly took off his jacket. Beneath, he wore a plain shirt. He moved calmly, without hurry. Kara stepped back and studied him. She noticed nothing unusual yet, just a human standing there trying not to look nervous. The crowd was tense. Many aliens had never seen a human act so calm before. Ethan adjusted his stance. He was not a trained warrior, but he had learned some fighting techniques in human training programs. He was careful and precise. He had practiced with sparring bots and simple weapons, mostly to survive dangerous situations. Today, he hoped he would not have to use them fully. Kara moved first. She lunged forward with strength and speed that made many in the crowd gasp. Her claws glinted as she aimed at Ethan. He stepped back, avoiding her first strike. His movements were smooth and careful. He did not panic. The crowd cheered and murmured. Some could not believe that a human could even dodge a strike from a Zaran warrior. Kara was confused. She had expected her first attack to land easily. Ethan's calm movements threw her off balance. For a moment, they circled each other. Ethan studied her, trying to find weaknesses. Kara moved quickly, powerful but predictable. Her strikes were strong, but Ethan's training had taught him to watch and wait. He did not fight aggressively. He simply observed and defended. Suddenly, Ethan moved in close, not to strike but to position himself carefully. Kara lunged again and he avoided her. Then something unexpected happened. Ethan turned slightly and the crowd gasped. A tattoo was visible on his back. It stretched across his shoulders, glowing faintly in the arena lights. It was a symbol of an ancient human order, one that had fought against great enemies in forgotten wars. Most of the aliens did not recognize it, but Kara did. Her eyes went wide. She froze in place. The arena grew silent. No one moved. Even the air seemed to hold its breath. Kara's confidence disappeared. She had not expected a human to carry such a mark. It was forbidden knowledge among warrior clans, known only to a few. Seeing it made her stop, unsure of what to do. Ethan did not move. He did not need to. The symbol was enough. It spoke for itself. Humans were not weak. They carried history, knowledge, and strength hidden in plain sight. Kara had learned something she did not expect. Some aliens whispered, "Is that a human mark from the old wars?" Kara's voice shook slightly. "Where did you?" Ethan looked at her calmly. "It is who I am. Humans have always had strength you cannot see at first glance." The crowd was amazed. No one had expected this. Humans were quiet, unassuming, and often underestimated. But today, one human had shown that there was more than met the eye. Kara lowered her stance slightly. She did not know what to do next. The challenge was not over, but she had lost her confidence. She was a warrior who had never been stopped by anyone. Now a human stood before her, calm and steady, carrying the weight of history on his back. Ethan did not speak further. He waited. He did not need to prove himself with words. The tattoo said enough. The message was clear. Humans were not weak, and some secrets were older and stronger than anyone in the galaxy could imagine. The crowd was silent, watching the two stand in the arena. Ethan and Kara, calm and fierce, human and Zarin. One showed quiet strength, the other learned that strength could not always be measured by size or speed. The first part of the duel had changed everything. It was not just a fight. It was a lesson for everyone watching. Humans were underestimated, yes, but never to be ignored. Kara finally stepped back, lowering her weapon slightly. She looked at Ethan, studying him in a new way. She realized that this human might be more than she had ever imagined. Ethan stayed calm. He was not looking for glory or attention. He was simply ready, as humans always were, for what came next. And with that, the arena held its breath. Knowing the story of this human and the warrior woman was only beginning. The silence in the arena stretched for a few long seconds. Kara's eyes did not leave Ethan. She could barely believe what she had seen. The tattoo on his back was not a simple mark. It was a symbol that spoke of power, history, and respect that few in the galaxy understood. For a moment, she was frozen. The proud warrior woman who had never lost a fight did not know what to do. Ethan noticed her hesitation. He kept his stance relaxed, not threatening, not showing anger or pride. He had learned long ago that humans did not need to boast. Their actions and sometimes even symbols were enough to show who they were. Kara's surprise told him that she understood something important now. The crowd began to murmur. Aliens whispered to each other. "Look at that human. Is he really from the old line?" one alien said. Another shook his head. "I thought humans were weak, soft, but this is something else." Humans in the audience nodded quietly. Many had heard stories of the old wars on Earth, but they were considered legends now. To see it in real life was remarkable. Kara slowly lowered her weapon, though she did not put it away completely. She stepped back and circled Ethan carefully. I did not know humans could," she trailed off. She could not find words to describe what she was feeling. Fear, respect, maybe all three. The proud warrior had never faced a human who carried such a mark. She had never faced one who stood so calm, so steady. Ethan did not speak at first. He simply looked at her, letting the silence communicate more than words could. Then he said, "Humans have always had strength. Not all of it is obvious. Some is quiet. Some is carried in memory, in symbols, in history. We survive because we remember who we are." Kara frowned. She did not fully understand him, but she sensed the truth in his words. She had fought many enemies in her life. She had faced warriors bigger, faster, stronger than she was. But there was something in Ethan she could not measure. It was not speed, not strength, not weapons. It was a calm power that spoke louder than anything she had encountered. The audience began to lean forward. They could sense a change in the arena. What had started as a challenge was now something more. It was a lesson. A human, small and quiet compared to the alien warriors, had stopped a proud fighter simply with presence and a mark on his back. Some aliens looked worried. Others were curious. Humans in the audience smiled quietly, proud without showing it. Kara's voice was low, almost shaking. "What is that mark?" she asked. She did not want to show fear, but her curiosity and respect pushed her to speak. Ethan smiled faintly. "It is a mark of my people. We call it the Defender's symbol. It is passed down through generations. It is not decoration. It is a reminder. A reminder that humans have faced enemies who thought us weak and small, and we survived." Kara's eyes widened. She had heard stories. Long ago, humans were said to have fought wars that left entire systems in fear. No one knew the full story because humans had vanished from galactic memory for a long time. Many species believed humans were primitive. Today, Kara realized that was wrong. She had judged poorly. "Humans you fought?" she asked. She could not believe it. The stories were almost mythical. She had been trained to fear nothing, but this human before her carried proof that humans had survived great trials. Ethan nodded. "We did," quietly, carefully. "We learned that strength is not only in muscles or weapons. It is in endurance, in unity, in knowing your history. That is what the tattoo means. It is not just a symbol. It is a warning. Humans are not to be underestimated." The crowd began to murmur more loudly now. Many aliens whispered to each other, realizing that they had judged humans incorrectly. Some stepped back, unsure if they should continue watching. Kara took a deep breath and shook her head. She had never felt this way before. She was a proud fighter, confident in every duel, but now she felt unsure. She had never faced someone whose strength was hidden, yet undeniable. Ethan took a slow step forward, but his movements were calm and measured. He did not raise his weapon. He did not shout. He simply moved with quiet confidence. The air seemed to change. The arena, once filled with the sounds of challenge and expectation, became still. Even the trading station noises outside felt distant, as if the moment in the arena had paused time. Kara lowered her weapon completely. She did not know if she should fight, retreat, or speak. She had never admitted respect so openly before. I underestimated your kind," she said softly. Her voice was almost a whisper, but it carried to the audience. "I thought humans were weak. I was wrong." Ethan nodded. "We do not mind being underestimated. It allows us to observe, to learn, to survive. But do not forget, humans remember who they are, and some of us carry the memory of what came before." A few aliens in the crowd gasped. They began to realize that humans were not only survivors, but keepers of knowledge and power that many had forgotten. Whispers turned into conversations. Some aliens who had looked down on humans now stepped back with caution. The perception of humans was changing in real time. Kara stepped closer, lowering her gaze. "Then, what do you want? Are you here to fight or—" She trailed off, unsure of how to continue. She had expected a duel, a show of strength. Instead, she faced a human who carried history on his back, who stood calm, and who did not seek to impress or threaten but only to show truth. Ethan smiled gently. "I do not seek glory. I do not seek to fight unless necessary. Humans prefer peace. But we never forget who we are. Kara studied him for a long moment. She realized that this human was unlike any opponent she had ever faced. He did not rely on weapons, nor on brute force. He relied on quiet confidence, awareness, and history. He carried a strength that many warriors had lost over time. The audience began to applaud softly, then more loudly. Humans and aliens alike recognized that this was not just a human standing in the arena. This was a symbol of what humanity could be. A reminder that small, quiet species could hold great power. Kara finally nodded. I see, I understand now. She lowered her stance fully and bowed slightly. It was a gesture of respect rarely given by Zarin warriors. The crowd murmured in surprise. They had expected a fight, a spectacle of violence. Instead, they saw a lesson, a human teaching a warrior without lifting a weapon. Ethan bowed slightly in return. He did not boast, did not smile widely. He simply acknowledged her respect. He had done nothing extraordinary in his mind. He had simply shown who he was. But for the galaxy watching, it was extraordinary. The moment passed, but its effect lingered. Whispers spread across the arena and beyond. Humans were no longer seen as weak or simple. They were recognized as disciplined, as survivors, as beings who could carry history and strength quietly. Kara stepped back and said, "We must speak more. There is much I do not know about your people. I assume too much. Perhaps humanity has lessons for us beyond fighting." Ethan nodded. There is always more to learn. Peace is not weakness, but we must always remember our strength even when it is quiet. The crowd slowly began to disperse, still talking in low voices. Many aliens looked at humans differently now. The duel that had been expected to be a simple contest had turned into a revelation. Humans were underestimated no longer. As Ethan returned to his work in the maintenance bay, some approached him quietly, asking questions about the mark, about the old human wars. He answered calmly, simply, without pride or arrogance. He wanted only to show that humans were more than the galaxy gave them credit for. Kara watched him from a distance, still stunned. She had thought humans were weak, soft, and unworthy of serious thought. Now she knew better. She had learned something important that day. Humans were not to be judged by appearances alone. Their strength was quiet, deep, and rooted in history that many had forgotten. The station slowly returned to its usual rhythm. Ships came and went, traders moved about, and life continued. But the memory of what had happened in the arena lingered. Humans had changed the way the galaxy saw them. One human, calm and steady, had done what no loud words or weapons could. He had reminded everyone that strength sometimes comes quietly, and sometimes it comes with history etched on your back. And for Ethan, it was enough. He did not seek fame. He did not seek glory. He simply continued his work, knowing that humans had once again earned a little more respect in the galaxy. Without fighting a single real battle after the duel in the arena, word of what had happened spread quickly through Station V-19. Aliens whispered to each other about the human who had faced Kara without fear and who bore the ancient mark on his back. Even some of the more experienced alien warriors stopped to speak quietly about it. For many, it was hard to believe that a human could carry such history and strength. Evelyn Hart, a human diplomat stationed on V-19, heard the stories and hurried to the arena. She had been working quietly to build connections with alien species for years, but today, she knew something different was happening. She found Ethan cleaning tools in the maintenance bay, calm and focused as always. "Ethan," she said softly, stepping beside him, "everyone is talking about what happened in the arena. Kara and the others, they saw something they never expected." Ethan wiped his hands and nodded. "I know, they saw a symbol, nothing more." Evelyn smiled faintly. "Nothing more." "Ethan, that symbol carries the story of humanity. It reminds the galaxy that humans have survived wars that erased entire planets from memory. It shows that humans are not weak, as most believe. Ethan shrugged. Humans do not need to prove themselves. The galaxy will learn in time. The mark is just a reminder for those who understand it. Meanwhile, Kara returned to her quarters aboard her ship. She could not stop thinking about Ethan and the tattoo. She paced slowly, trying to understand what it meant. The prideful warrior who had never lost a fight now felt small in the presence of a human who carried quiet power. Why did he not fight? She asked aloud to no one. Her voice carried a hint of confusion and curiosity. Why did he not try to show strength? Why did he stand calm while I attacked? One of her crew approached cautiously. Commander, humans are known to survive in ways we do not expect. Maybe he is not showing you his full power. Kara shook her head. It is not that. There is something deeper. That mark, it tells a story of a kind we thought were weak, and yet they carry it proudly. Back at the maintenance bay, Ethan and Evelyn discussed the history of humans quietly. The tattoo, Ethan said, is part of an old order. Humans who carried it were known as defenders. They faced enemies that the galaxy does not remember. They survived when others could not. It is not about fighting. It is about endurance, unity, and remembering what came before. Evelyn nodded. And most aliens do not know this. They think humans are small, weak, and unimportant. Today, Ethan, you reminded them of who we are. I did nothing, Ethan said. I only stood still. The symbol did the rest. Word of the encounter reached other humans stationed on V-19. Some were amazed and proud. Others were quietly surprised, realizing that even in a galaxy that had ignored humans, their history and resilience could still inspire respect. Conversations started about past human victories, secret battles, and hidden strengths that had been forgotten over time. Kara, unable to rest, sent a message to Ethan through the station's communication network. I want to understand, she wrote. Humans, your kind is not what we expected. I need to learn more about this symbol and what it means. Ethan read the message and paused. He could have ignored it, but he understood that Kara's curiosity was genuine. Humans valued knowledge, honesty, and learning, and sometimes teaching others could prevent future conflict. He replied calmly, if you wish to learn, meet me in the upper observation deck. I will explain what I can. The observation deck was a quiet place above the trading floors. Large windows overlooked the docking bays, showing ships of many colors and shapes moving in and out. It was peaceful, a place where important conversations could happen without interruption. Kara arrived first, her armor set aside, her usual confidence replaced by curiosity and a touch of humility. You humans, she began, carry strength in ways we never imagined. Tell me, what does the symbol really mean? Ethan gestured toward the wide view of the station. It is a reminder of our history. Humans have faced enemies that were thought unbeatable. We survived because we learned to endure, to trust each other, to use wisdom before force. The symbol is for those who remember. It tells the galaxy that humans are not to be underestimated, even if we appear small or weak. Kara listened carefully. She had expected a story of brute strength, but Ethan spoke of patience, endurance, and unity. It was a lesson different from anything she had been taught. She realized that humans' power was not loud or flashy. It was quiet, constant, and enduring. So humans fight differently, she said slowly. Not for glory, not for victory, but to survive and to remember. Ethan nodded. Yes, we do not seek unnecessary conflict, but we never forget who we are or what we are capable of. That is why the mark is important. It reminds humans of our past, and it warns others that underestimating us can be dangerous. Kara thought for a long moment. She had never met a human like Ethan before. His calm, steady demeanor and quiet strength made her rethink everything she had believed about humanity. The warrior in her recognized a power she could not ignore, even if it was different from her own. I need to go back and speak with my people, Kara said finally. They need to understand what I have seen. Humans are not what we thought. You have changed the way I see your kind." Ethan smiled faintly. "We only hope that understanding comes before conflict. Humans prefer to teach, not fight, but we will defend ourselves if needed." The conversation marked the beginning of a new understanding. Kara would carry the story of Ethan and the tattoo back to her people, and slowly, humans would begin to be recognized differently. The quiet human who had faced a proud warrior without fear had started to change perceptions, simply by being who he was. Later, as the station returned to its usual pace, Ethan walked through the halls calmly. Alien traders, workers, and visitors looked at him with newfound curiosity. Some smiled, some bowed slightly. Even the Zarin warriors who had laughed at humans now regarded them with caution and respect. Evelyn caught up with him again. "Ethan, today you did more than stop a duel. You reminded everyone that humans have a history they cannot see at first glance. You reminded them that our kind is patient, wise, and strong." Ethan shook his head. "I did nothing extraordinary. I only showed who I am. Humans do not need to prove themselves every day. We only need to remember who we are." The rest of the day passed with quiet acknowledgement. Whispers of the duel, the tattoo, and the lesson it carried spread beyond the station. Humans who were once dismissed as weak or insignificant began to be treated differently. Even Kara's people began to speak cautiously, reassessing what they had believed about humans. That evening, Ethan returned to the maintenance bay, ready to continue his work. He knew that the galaxy would take time to understand humans, but today was a step forward. The encounter had not only changed Kara's view, but also the way the station and its many species saw humanity. As he worked, Ethan thought quietly to himself. Humans were small in size compared to many aliens and sometimes underestimated. But history, endurance, unity, and calm strength made humans remarkable. One tattoo, one moment of presence, could remind the galaxy that appearances were often deceiving. Kara, aboard her ship, watched the station lights from a distance. She could not stop thinking about Ethan. She realized that the galaxy had misjudged humans for too long. They were quiet, patient, and strong in ways few could understand. And one human, standing calmly in an arena, had reminded her and many others of the truth. The first step toward understanding had begun. Humans were no longer just small, weak creatures in the eyes of the galaxy. They were a people with memory, strength, and endurance that could not be ignored. Ethan had done nothing more than be himself, and yet that alone was enough to begin changing centuries of prejudice. The story of the duel, the tattoo, and the quiet human who stood without fear would be remembered on Station V-19 for a long time. And more importantly, it would mark the start of humans being seen not as weak, but as a species with history, depth, and strength that the galaxy could no longer ignore. The next morning, Station V was unusually quiet in some areas. The story of Ethan and Kara's encounter had spread across the station and beyond. Many aliens whispered about the human who had faced a proud warrior without fear and carried the ancient tattoo. The gossip was not about strength in battle alone. It was about wisdom, calm, and history. Kara had called a meeting with her officers. She spoke in low, serious tones. "I have seen a human today who carries more than strength. He carries history. He carries endurance, unity, and quiet power. Humans are not what we thought." Her officers listened, some in disbelief, others in cautious respect. They had expected Kara to tell them of a fight won easily. Instead, she told them of a lesson learned. Meanwhile, Ethan continued his work in the maintenance bay. He repaired engines, checked systems, and helped humans and aliens alike. He did not seek attention, but even so, many came to see him, curious about the man who had stopped a duel without fighting. Small groups of aliens approached cautiously, asking questions about humans and the meaning of the tattoo. Ethan answered calmly, explaining the importance of history, endurance, and quiet strength. One of Kara's officers, a young alien named Ryler, approached Ethan hesitantly. I have heard of you," he said. "Humans, you are different from what we expected. Can you teach us more about your kind?" Ethan nodded. "I can share what humans have learned, but it is not about power alone. It is about remembering history, respecting life, and knowing when to act. Humans survive because we understand patience and unity." The aliens listened carefully. Many had never heard such words from a human before. Their species valued strength and skill in combat above all else, but Ethan's words carried a quiet authority. It was not fear or threat that demanded attention. It was calm wisdom. Kara visited Ethan again that afternoon. She had removed her armor entirely and spoke freely, without the pride or anger she had shown in the arena. "Humans are patient, careful, and strong in ways I did not know. The galaxy has underestimated your kind for too long." Ethan nodded. "We do not mind being underestimated. It allows us to observe, to plan, and to survive. But when the time comes, humans remember who we are and what we can do." Kara smiled faintly, a new kind of respect in her eyes. "I want to help humans be seen differently, not for war but for understanding. The galaxy must know you are not weak." Over the next days, Ethan and Kara worked together quietly. She asked questions about human history, their victories, and the lessons behind the tattoos. He explained carefully, using simple examples from old Earth records. She began to understand that human strength was not only in physical skill, but in endurance, teamwork, and knowledge passed down for generations. Small groups of aliens began to visit Ethan in the maintenance bay. Some came to learn about humans. Others came because Kara told them to observe him. Each conversation was calm, simple, and honest. Ethan never boasted. He simply shared knowledge. Slowly, the perception of humans began to change. Trading stations near V-19 received news of Ethan's encounter. Alien leaders who had dismissed humans began to reconsider. Some sent envoys to observe human behavior quietly. They wanted to understand why one human could make a proud warrior hesitate and command respect without fighting. In one corner of the station, a small group of human children watched Ethan with awe. They had heard the story from older humans. "He's just like the heroes in the old stories," one child said, "but he is real." "Yes," another replied, "and he teaches without fighting. That is what makes him strong." Kara continued to learn. She returned to her people and shared her observations. Humans do not fight recklessly. They survive because they plan, because they remember, and because they trust each other. The galaxy has judged them wrongly. Her officers listened carefully. Some began to suggest new ways of interacting with humans, offering trade, dialogue, and cooperation instead of challenge and scorn. Back on the station, Ethan continued his work quietly. He checked engines, helped aliens understand human technology, and assisted with repairs. Yet everywhere he went, whispers followed. Humans were no longer dismissed. They were observed with a mixture of curiosity and respect. Ethan did not seek attention, but his presence alone reminded many that humans were not to be underestimated. One afternoon, Kara approached him with a formal request. "Ethan, my people want to meet humans peacefully. They want to learn. Will you help guide them?" Ethan thought for a moment. "Yes, humans value understanding. We will show them our history, our way of thinking, and why we endure. But we do not seek conflict. We only hope for knowledge and respect in return." Kara nodded. "Then together we will help them understand." The weeks that followed changed the atmosphere on Station V-19. Small gatherings of aliens and humans exchanged ideas. Aliens asked questions. Humans answered simply and honestly. Misunderstandings began to fade. Even species that had laughed at humans before now looked at them with curiosity and cautious respect. Ethan's quiet leadership, combined with Kara's newfound respect, slowly reshaped the perception of humanity. He did not fight anyone. He did not boast. He simply shared knowledge, history, and patience. Yet more than any battle, this approach proved powerful. The galaxy began to see humans as thoughtful, enduring, and capable of strength beyond physical combat. Aliens who had challenged humans before now approached cautiously, willing to listen instead of fight. Kara's influence grew as she spoke of her encounter with Ethan. She emphasized the importance of observation, learning, and respect. The galaxy, once dismissive, began to understand that humans were not to be underestimated. Even at night, as the station lights flickered and ships docked or departed, whispers continued. Humans were no longer small and weak. They were now known as a people who could survive, endure, and teach lessons without raising weapons. Ethan moved quietly through the station, repairing systems, checking engines, and assisting those who needed help. Yet every action reminded others of the quiet power humans carried. One evening, Kara met Ethan on the observation deck. They looked out at the stars, the ships moving calmly below them. "The galaxy will remember this," she said. "Humans are not weak and they will not be dismissed again." Ethan nodded. "We do not need to be remembered with fear. Respect is enough. The galaxy will learn slowly but surely. Humans endure and humans remember. That is our strength." Kara smiled, understanding fully for the first time. She had come expecting to challenge a human, to prove her own strength. Instead, she had learned a lesson that would echo through her people for years. Humans were patient, wise, enduring, and strong in ways that could not be measured by size or weapons alone. The story of Ethan and the tattoo spread further. Aliens from distant systems requested meetings, observation, and understanding. Humans began to be seen as a species of knowledge and quiet power. Even those who had once laughed now approached with questions and respect. As days passed, Ethan continued his work, unnoticed by some, admired by others. His actions were simple: help, repair, share knowledge. Yet those simple actions carried a message. Humans were not to be underestimated. History, endurance, and unity could hold more power than the galaxy had imagined. Kara returned to her people, sharing stories of patience, understanding, and quiet strength. Humans were no longer dismissed as small and weak. They had begun to reshape the galaxy's perception, not with war but with presence, knowledge, and calm resolve. And in the maintenance bay of Station V-19, Ethan worked quietly, unaware of how many eyes now watched with respect. Humans were changing, not by force, but by being themselves. The galaxy had learned an important lesson: underestimate humans at your own risk. Not because they fight the loudest, but because they endure, remember, and act with quiet, lasting strength. Time passed on Station V-19, and humans were no longer overlooked. The story of Ethan Brooks and Kara spread across multiple sectors. Aliens who had dismissed humans now approached cautiously, curious to learn, rather than to challenge. Word of the quiet human who had carried history on his back traveled far, and some species even sent envoys to the station for observation. Ethan continued his work in the maintenance bay, fixing engines, calibrating power systems, and helping both humans and aliens. He did not seek recognition. He had never wanted it. Yet everywhere he went, whispers followed. Aliens glanced at him with respect, some with awe. The tattoo on his back was no longer just a symbol of human history. It had become a symbol of quiet authority, patience, and understanding. Kara remained by his side during these days, acting as a bridge between humans and alien visitors. She explained to her people and others the lessons she had learned. "Humans are not weak," she said. "They do not show strength with weapons alone. They endure, they remember, and they teach. That is power beyond combat." Many aliens were astonished. They had believed humans were fragile and insignificant, only to realize that one human could command respect and change perceptions simply by being himself. It was not aggression that won the day. It was presence, knowledge, and quiet strength. One day, an alien diplomat from a distant planet named Orion approached Ethan. "I have heard much about you, human. Your people, your history, it is remarkable. I wish to understand more." Ethan nodded calmly. "We will share what we can. Humans endure because we learn from our past, trust each other, and remember who we are. That is why we survive." Orion observed the maintenance bay carefully, noticing how humans and aliens worked together under Ethan's guidance. No one argued, no one fought. Yet respect was clear in every glance and gesture. Orion turned to Kara. "This human he teaches without raising a hand. Your people should learn from him as well." Kara smiled faintly. "He has already taught more than I could have imagined. The galaxy is beginning to understand humans because of him." Back in the observation deck, Ethan and Kara looked out at the stars. Ships traveled to and from the station, carrying goods, passengers, and news. Ethan spoke quietly, as if thinking aloud. "Humans are small compared to many species, but we endure, we survive, we remember. That is our strength. The galaxy is starting to see it now." Kara nodded. "And it is because of your calm, your presence, and your willingness to show the truth. Humans will be respected now, not because of violence, but because of understanding. That is rare in the galaxy." As weeks turned to months, humans gained new respect in the sectors surrounding V-19. Traders, diplomats, and even warriors approached humans differently. The story of Ethan's encounter had become a lesson, a symbol of how quiet strength could change minds. Small human delegations began to meet with alien leaders, sharing history, technology, and philosophy. Kara acted as an ambassador, bridging gaps and fostering dialogue. Aliens listened, learned, and slowly began to adjust their perception of humanity. Even children in the station began to admire humans differently. Young aliens who had grown up thinking humans were weak now asked questions, seeking knowledge instead of conflict. They wanted to understand humans, to learn their ways of patience, endurance, and cooperation. Ethan continued to work quietly. He fixed engines, calibrated power grids, and helped those in need. Yet every simple action carried a lesson. Humans could teach without force, guide without arrogance, and inspire without boasting. The galaxy had underestimated them for centuries, but one human, calm and steady, had begun to change that. One day, Kara gathered a group of alien officers and humans in the main hall of the station. She spoke clearly. "Today, we recognize humans not as weak or small, but as a species of endurance and knowledge. We must learn from them, respect them, and work with them." The audience listened carefully. Some were skeptical, others intrigued. Slowly, they began to nod, realizing that humans had survived, thrived, and taught lessons the galaxy had forgotten. Ethan spoke next, quietly, without raising his voice. "Humans do not seek conflict. We do not wish to dominate. We endure, we learn, we remember, and we teach. That is our strength. Respect comes naturally when one understands who we are and why we have survived." The audience was silent for a moment, taking in the words. Some murmured to each other, realizing that humans had been misjudged for far too long. Others looked at Kara, seeing her pride in her ally, and understood that this respect was genuine, earned without a single violent battle. Traders, diplomats, and even warriors began to approach humans in new ways. They asked questions, offered cooperation, and shared ideas. Humans were no longer dismissed. They were now seen as a species capable of endurance, wisdom, and quiet power. Ethan continued his work, unaware of how many eyes watched him with respect. He did not boast, did not seek recognition. He simply did his job, helping others, teaching when necessary, and showing that humans carried strength in ways many species had forgotten. Kara remained close, guiding others to understand humans. She had learned an important lesson. Strength is not always loud or visible. Endurance, knowledge, patience, and history could command more respect than weapons or battles. Station V became a hub of learning and dialogue. Humans and aliens worked together, exchanging ideas, technology, and history. Misunderstandings faded, replaced with curiosity and respect. Humans had changed the perception of the galaxy, not with war, but by being themselves. One evening, as Ethan and Kara watched the stars from the observation deck, Kara spoke softly. The galaxy has learned a lesson it should not forget. Humans are strong, patient, and enduring. They teach without fighting, and they inspire without boasting. You have changed how the galaxy sees your people. Ethan smiled faintly. We do not need the galaxy to fear us. Respect is enough. Humans endure, we remember, and we act with patience. That is our power, Kara nodded. And because of you, humans will no longer be dismissed. The galaxy will think twice before underestimating your kind again. As the stars twinkled above, the station felt different. Humans were no longer ignored, laughed at, or underestimated. Their history, endurance, and quiet strength had begun to reshape the galaxy's view. All because one human had stood calmly in an arena, shown his mark, and reminded everyone that humans were not to be judged by size or appearance alone. The story of Ethan Brooks and the alien warrior woman, Kara, became legendary across the sectors. It was told and retold, not as a story of battle, but as a story of respect, wisdom, and endurance. Humans were finally seen for what they truly were: strong, patient, and capable of changing minds without raising a hand. The galaxy had learned a new truth. Underestimate humans at your own risk. Not because they fight the loudest, but because they endure, remember, and act with quiet, lasting strength. And Ethan Brooks, quiet, patient, and steady, had been the one to remind them all. Humans continued their work, their studies, and their interactions across the galaxy. Their reputation grew, not from conquest, but from wisdom, patience, and understanding. Aliens began to approach humans differently, and slowly the galaxy became a place where humans were respected, not feared but appreciated. And Ethan, he continued his work quietly, simply, and without pride. Yet every action he took carried the message that humans were not weak, that history and endurance mattered, and that sometimes the greatest strength was in being calm, patient, and true to oneself. The galaxy had finally begun to see humanity as it truly was. And that was the greatest victory of all.